this was never supposed to end like this.
নারী সুরক্ষা এবং দুর্নীতির বিরুদ্ধে মানুষের কাছে যাও, হ্যাঁ, বিজেপিকে ভোট দাও।
What began on August 9, 2024 inside a government hospital in Kolkata was not just another crime story. It was a rupture, a moment that shook the conscience of a city. A state, a country, a young woman doctor, Abhaya, became a symbol not just of brutality but of everything that is broken in our system.
দফা এক দাবি এক মুখ্যমন্ত্রীর পদত্যাগ।
ওরা বিচার চায় না, ওরা চায় চেয়ার।
And for once, yes, for once, people did not look away. They came out, they marched, they protested, they demanded justice, not as a party worker, not as voter, but as citizens of this country. Doctors walked out, students filled the streets, ordinary people, yes, ordinary people who never attend protest, stood shoulder to shoulder. Look at that 80-year-old mother. She came out. She tried extending the strength, whatever is left in her frail body, with the protest. That father came along with her minor daughter, both protesting to save the future, a future that belongs to this country.
আপনি এই পোস্টারগুলো ধরে কতক্ষণ দাঁড়িয়ে আছেন? প্রায় 2 ঘন্টা। মেয়েকে নিয়ে এসেছেন?
মেয়ে তো আমাকে সব জোগাচ্ছে। আমরা দাঁড়াবো বাবা, আমরা ওপারে দাঁড়াবো না, আমরা এপারে দাঁড়াবো, আমরা তো কোনো লড়াই করতে আসি।
সাইলেন্ট প্রটেস্ট, নীরব লড়াই।
নীরব লড়াই।
There was anger, yes, but there was also something rare. That's called unity. For a brief moment, Bengal rose above politics. And then, politics arrived.
তৃণমূলের পুরো মূলটাকেই উপড়ে ফেলার জন্য আমি বিজেপিতে যোগ দিয়েছি। তবে আমিই দিয়েছি, আমিই ফোন করে বলেছি আমি প্রার্থী হতে চাই বিজেপির।
Very early on, narratives began to form. Allegations started flying that evidence was tampered with, that the police were trying to botch up the case. Let's be clear, at that point, there was no concrete proof of that. But when public anger reaches a boiling point, facts often take a backseat. For example, somebody said the femur bone was twisted 180 degrees.
Were bones broken?
Yes.
How many? Any particular bone which was broken?
Pie bone, but in the humerus one, it was actually totally rotated 180 degree.
Somebody said there were multiple bruises on her body.
113টা কামড়ের দাগ।
113টা কামড়ের দাগ।
113টা কামড়ের দাগ।
Somebody said there were multiple bones broken in the body.
মানে যখন মারা হয়েছে মেয়েটা দেখলাম তো পেলভিক গার্ডের নাকি এরকম ফোড়া ভেঙে দেওয়া হয়েছিল।
আচ্ছা।
তা ওরা একটা মানুষ মিলে এরকম করতে পারে? কখনো করতে পারে।
Somebody said the collarbones were broken. Somebody said there was a deep cut on her face. Somebody said 150 grams of semen found inside the body of the victim.
এবং তার স্পাম পাওয়া গেছে অনেকটা 100 গ্রাম। তাহলে 7-8 জন ধর্ষণ করা ছাড়া এইরকম স্পাম পাওয়া যায় না।
Yes, each of them were fake stories. And each fake story contributed to a narrative. And each fake narrative eventually contributed to a real anger. The Kolkata Police had arrested the accused, Sanjay Roy, within 24 hours. That is a fact. But facts don't calm rage. Narratives do. The protest intensified, the pressure built, and on August 13, that is exactly within 4 days since the incident, the case was handed over to the CBI, handed over by Calcutta High Court. Now pause there. The CBI is Central Bureau of Investigation. It is not an abstract institution floating in the air. It functions under the central government, the same central government run by the BJP. So when the CBI took over, this was no longer just a state story. It became a national one, a centrally monitored investigation. Eventually, the matter went to Supreme Court, and thus the case also stayed as a Supreme Court monitored investigation, where the progress was equally accountable before the bench of the Chief Justice of India. Then, months passed. The CBI conducted its probe independently, thoroughly. And then came the charge sheet. What did it say? It named the same man Kolkata Police had arrested, Sanjay Roy. It categorically stated Sanjay Roy was the only person, the sole person to have committed the crime. Yes, after months of investigation, the premier central agency of the country reached the same conclusion as the city police that had been accused, abused, and publicly discredited. Junior doctors went to give a spine to the police, then Police Commissioner Vineet Goyal. But they never had the spine to admit that they were motivated and were actually trying to motivate others. Casualty? The uniform of police and the public trust. The damage was done. The uniform had already been tarnished, insulted. The institution had already been doubted, and the movement, that pure people-driven movement, had already begun to drift. Because politics had found its opening. Then came the Shialda court verdict. Sanjay Roy was sentenced. Inside the courtroom, I vividly remember Abhaya's parents broke down as soon as the verdict was pronounced. It was a moment of unimaginable grief. Both the parents, with tears in their eyes and in folded hands, urging before the judge, "Don't fail us. Don't forget us." At that point in time, the CBI had demanded death penalty. So had the parents. But then something shifted. The verdict was challenged before the Calcutta High Court, and suddenly the parents changed their stand. They said they no longer wanted the death penalty, a complete reversal, a position that interestingly mirrored that of the left, which was historically, or rather I would say has historically opposed capital punishment. People noticed, but people also moved on. And then came another turn. The parents said they did not trust the CBI investigation, the very agency they had once looked to for justice. They alleged that the probe was compromised, that it was deliberately weakened, that the truth was being hidden. Again, this echoed what sections of protesting doctors and political groups have been saying. Most of those doctors aligned with the left ideology.
যে এই যে নারকীয় ঘটনা ঘটেছে সেই ঘটনা কোনো একজনের পক্ষে ঘটানো সম্ভব নয়। তাহলে সিবিআই এতদিন ধরে কি করছে এবং সিবিআই কেন এই জিনিসটিকে গুরুত্ব সহকারে দেখছেন না, এবং সিবিআই আজকে যে চার্জশিট দেওয়া হয়েছে সেখানে সঞ্জয় রায় ছাড়া আর কারুর নাম নেই কেন, এই বিষয়গুলো আমাদের শুধু নয় প্রত্যেকটি সাধারণ মানুষকে ভাবাচ্ছে এবং প্রত্যেকেই ক্ষুব্ধ।
Then came perhaps the most extraordinary moment. The parents marched to the CBI office. They accused the central agency, effectively the BJP-led system, of colluding with the Trinamool Congress government, of selling out the case. Think about that. At one point, the demand was, take the case away from the state and give it to the center. When that happened and the findings did not match expectations, the center itself was accused of betrayal. And in the middle of all of this, political lines blurred. The parents seemed to be taking sides. the parents were seen with BJP leaders at times. Then at protests where BJP was criticized. Then marching alongside BJP during a law violation program in Kolkata. Then accusing the same BJP of not doing enough. I clearly remember during the law violation program, we did speak with the father and he said that Trinamool Congress leader Kunal Ghosh had used money and power to negotiate and settle the matter with CBI, a damning allegation that also followed a defamation filed against him by Kunal Ghosh.
সিবিআই যে আপনারা বলছেন কেসটাকে বচআপ করে দিয়েছে, তাতে
সিবিআই ডিরেক্টর আমাকে বলেছে আমরা একে ছেড়ে দেবো। আমি বলেছি আমাকে বলতে হবে না, কোর্টে গিয়ে বলবে।
কেন
আমাদের যে কোশ্চেনের কোনো উত্তর সিবিআই এর কাছে নেই, সিবিআই দেবে না।
তাতে সিবিআই লাভটা কি?
সিবিআই টাকা খেয়েছে, আর কি লাভ?
কার থেকে টাকা খেয়েছে?
রাজ্য সরকারের কাছ থেকে। আর কি শুনবেন?
বাট সিবিআই
কুণাল ঘোষ গিয়ে সেটেলমেন্ট করেছে সিএজিও কোম্পানি।
সিবিআই তো
এরপর আর কিছু শুনবেন?
And through all of this, one thing became clear. The movement had fractured. What started as a unified cry for justice had turned into a battlefield of narratives. And then, the final reveal. The mother of Abhaya is now a BJP candidate, contesting the 2026 Bengal Assembly elections from Panihati. Get this registered in your head. Abhaya's mother is now a BJP leader and a BJP candidate for the impending Bengal election 2026. Let's be very clear. Every citizen of this country has the right to contest elections. Every individual has the right to choose a political party. That is democracy. But this is not just about a candidature. This is about what came before it. Because the BJP did not just support a grieving mother. They built a political narrative around her pain. They took to the streets and raised the slogan, Dabi Ek, Dofa Ek, Mamata Banerjee Podotyay, which means they only demanded Mamata Banerjee's resignation. They said this was a failure of governance. Then they said this was not political, that it was a social movement, that they were just amplifying a voice. And today they are saying the same thing but asking for votes. Using the same case, the same tragedy, the same faces, the same posters, campaigns, speeches. This is no longer about justice. This is about power. And that is where the moral question arises. Because you cannot claim a movement is apolitical and then convert it into an electoral capital. You cannot say, we are with the victim, and then turn the victim story into a campaign strategy. That poster was essentially made by the left-leaning student bodies while calling it a symbol of resistance, while calling for night-long protest as Reclaim the Night. BJP used that poster with their text and never gave courtesy to the left students for the creative. It is almost like using someone for their own political requirement, and here in this case, not giving credit to the loss of a mom and a dad. That is not politics, that is exploitation. And here's where it gets even more uncomfortable.
আপনার পানিয়াটিতে সময় দেওয়ার পরে একটু সময় যদি থাকে, আপনাকে ভবানীপুরেও একবার বা দুবার, অন্তত একবার আপনাকে যেতে হবে।
তোমাদের চোখের জল সফল হবে কিন্তু 4 তারিখে। 29 তারিখ সঠিক সিদ্ধান্ত নিয়ে ভোটটা দিতে যেও। বিচার আমাদের দরকার। সারা পশ্চিমবঙ্গের মা বোনেদের আত্মার শান্তি 4 তারিখে হবে। অভয়া হেরে গেলে বাংলা হেরে যাবে, আমরা হেরে যাব।
Because this is the same BJP that has time and again been accused of standing on the wrong side of cases involving sexual violence, from the remission of convicts in the Bilkis Bano case, men convicted of gang rape, sentenced by a court, by judiciary, who were later released because Gujarat government had sought remission for them. eventually they were publicly felicitated. To that Unnao case involving Kuldeep Singh Sengar, where action came only after national outrage. To ministers defending accused in the Katua case, to prolonged silence in the Brij Bhushan allegations despite protests by India's top athletes. The pattern is not invisible. It is documented. It is remembered. Tell me in which part of the world were convicted rapists celebrated like this? Because she is Bilkis Banu, the nation will ignore. The court called them rapists, but BJP said they are sanskari and are acid. You want to trust that same BJP? And if you remember, there is something called justice. And if it is all about justice, then let's go back to Hathras. Because that night was not just about a crime. That night was about what happens after a crime. A young Dalit woman was raped. She fought for her life. And when she lost her fight, what did the system do? In the dead of night, without the family's consent, her body was taken, doused in fuel and burned. No last rites, no dignity, no closure, just flames. And those flames did not just consume a body, they consumed trust, they consumed justice, they consumed hope. Because that night on the soil of a BJP-ruled state, that is Uttar Pradesh, hope itself was set on fire, and the message was chillingly clear that even in death, the victim would not be allowed to control over her own story.
क्या है सर, बॉडी है कि नहीं है?
मेरी ड्यूटी यहाँ पर है आप लोगों को इस बताने के लिए कि आप लोग आगे ना बढ़े बस यहाँ पर।
मैं आगे नहीं बढ़ रही हूँ, आप मुझे बता दीजिए क्या चल रहा है?
आप इस बारे में डीएम साहब से पूछना आई हैं? डीएम साहब से आपकी बात हुई है? डीएम साहब से बात हुई है आपकी? डीएम साहब से बात हुई है आपकी? डीएम साहब से बात हुई है आपकी? डीएम साहब से बात हुई है आपकी?
सर ये क्या चल रहा है?
डीएम साहब से बात हुई है आपकी?
क्या ना आप लोगों ने जो करना है, हटिए एक बार।
Now let's go further east, go to Manipur. Because if Hathras was about silencing one voice, Manipur was about the silence over thousands. For months, the state burned. Women were displaced, families torn apart, homes reduced to ashes, and in the middle of that chaos came visuals that shook the conscience of anyone who saw them. Women stripped, paraded, violated, not just physically, but as a message, as a warning, as a weapon. Thousands of women lived through fear, loss, humiliation, things no human being should ever experience. And this was not happening in some forgotten corner. This was happening under what is proudly called a double-engine Sarkar. Same party at the center, same party in the state, power consolidated, control complete. And yet, where was the voice? Where was the outrage? Where was the urgency we are told exists when it comes to women's safety? Who stood up and said, this must stop right now? Who took responsibility? Who ensured that justice was not just promised but delivered?
Amit Shah, he came to Manipur and he didn't do anything. He went back. He didn't say anything about this war. We, the peoples of Manipur, we call that the peoples of Manipur is Manipuri. We are Manipuri. Kuki also Manipuri. Meitei also Manipuri. We are Manipuri. We can stay here together. I want to go back to my village. I want to stay in my home. This is not my home relief camp. We all want to take rest in the home in this time, especially for the women. No house.
Justice is consistency. And consistency is exactly what is missing here in the case of BJP. Even beyond Bengal, in Orissa, neighboring Orissa, a woman set herself ablaze after alleging sexual harassment inside college premises. Where was the outrage then? In Goa, the son of a BJP councillor has been arrested for exploiting minors. Did that trigger a nationwide moral campaign? Or does outrage depend on political convenience? And then there's the final uncomfortable detail. The law in this country protects the identity of victims in sexual harassment cases. Media houses follow it, journalists respect it, citizens are expected to uphold it. So who gave any political party the right to publicly disclose the identity of a victim's family for electoral gains? who decided rules apply to everyone else but not on BJP? This is not just a political question, this is a moral one. It is BJP that has released their third candidature list, and it is BJP that has disclosed the name of Abhaya's mother. I clearly remember it was the Supreme Court that had put an absolute restriction on use of the victim's name or any details of the victim that can be used to identify her or her parents. There was a picture doing rounds. The court put a restriction on that. There was a slight outline which could resemble like the victim. Again, the Supreme Court of India had put a restriction on the usage of that. Yet, the same BJP, the Sanskari BJP, disclosed the name of Abhaya's mother without any explanation they ever caring to give. Because what we witnessed after August 9 was rare. People were not divided. They were not arguing over party lines. They were not defending governments. They were demanding change, real change, societal change. And what did politics do? It stepped in and redirected that energy from justice to elections, from unity to division, from outrage to strategy. And today, we stand at the end of that journey. A movement that could have been historic, reduced to a campaign. A movement that could have changed society, absorbed into politics. And the most painful part, you know what? Many people saw this coming. Many warned that politics would hijack the movement. But in that moment of anger, no one wanted to believe it. Because we wanted to believe that this is the time to create a difference, make a difference, bring a change. That time is gone. That this time, justice would remain above politics. We were wrong. And now, as the banners go up and the speeches begin, one question remains. Was this ever about justice, or was it always about power? History will judge. And history will remember how we took a moment that could have been historic, wasted it, courtesy politics, courtesy the BJP. The rest, I won't say anything about Abhaya's mother. You decide. I would always look at her as a woman who lost her daughter. For whatever reason, she has joined politics. She knows it the best. And I leave it to you to decide what you've seen so far since August 9, 2024, what you see now, and what you would like to believe next. Jai Hind, Satyameva Jayate.